what's up? Today at Stroke Diesel we're screwing with the GSXR1000. We're going to go ahead and show you how to test for a starting issue. As of right now, the way the bike is sitting, it doesn't want to crank at all. So we turn the key on and it just clicks.
Nothing.
That's all it's doing. So we want to make sure that the relay is functioning properly. We want to make sure power is getting back to the relay.
Shut that door. There we go.
Easiest way we can do that, this is a power probe. I think this is a number 2, isn't it?
I think so.
So you got power, you got ground circuit that you can switch back and forth. So what we're going to do really quick, we're going to just check from here to the solenoid. We're going to make sure we have power, which we do. The beeping is main power. Bring it back up. There you go. I can actually turn that off because it's kind of
Yeah, it's the other button.
There we go. So we'll just show, it shows power here and it shows voltage.
Let's put it on the ground just to show them.
Negative, obviously no voltage. So the other side of the solenoid, these wires are all the wires that control the solenoid. So we're going to just make sure that this is functioning properly, which it is. On both sides, we have power on both sides, which is great. So this means we've got a good ground until we hit the power buttons. So we're getting full power on the solenoid when we hit the start button, which is great. It means we have power. The solenoid is functioning properly. Now what we're going to do is remove the tank and get to the starter. Once we get to the starter, we'll go from there. Move the aftermarket stuff out of the way.
A bracket right there, and that's it. Good old Maxy.
Hold the steering wheel up. Sure it doesn't hit nothing. Can we disconnect fuel line?
I have not yet.
Okay.
I just unbolted it.
Over here. So they can see right here.
Okay, let's push this up so you can get your hand down there. Ow.
Move your fingers into it. We're going to turn the key off. Whoa. So right down here, this is the fuel supply line. It goes up to the carburetors, or sorry, not carburetors, the throttle.
Injection.
Throttle bodies. And then you have your electric connector here. You just push it down and we'll unplug it. And then this one, I'll show you the connector after I get it off. So, just roll that up. Drip fuel. See how that connector is? You got to pinch those two together, then you can pull the fuel line straight off. The clip stays with the fuel tank. So now the fuel tank can be removed.
It's fine. We got it open. Here's the starter.
Yep.
Boom. Nice and tiny.
Now we can get to the starter. There's a couple other problems that we're going to address while we're in here, but now we can test. Once we hit the starting wire, we're going to test and see if we have power going down to the actual starter. We're going to turn the key back on. Find the fuel pump's not hooked up, so I'm not too worried about it. We're going to come down here. Move this boot out of the way real quick. We're going to expose the connector right to the starter. So we've got our ground. So we've got power going to the starter. Now we're going to check right here, just make sure it has a good ground. Go ahead and hit it one more time. Okay. Cool. So at this particular point, we would just condemn the starter because it's not cranking properly. But I don't want to do that just yet. I actually want to take, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the starter out. This is just the cover for it. We're not going to touch this just yet. But you can actually access the gear reduction in here for the starter. What we're going to do is we're going to just pull the starter out really quick.
Boom.
Alright, key off. When you do stuff like this, especially with a starter, make sure you
Always
disconnect the battery.
See that right there?
one side. You don't have to disconnect both sides.
As long as you're not sending power through the system.
The last thing you want to do is accidentally touch the power to a ground.
Whoa!
That was a little weird. What was that?
The gimbal's doing its thing.
So,
Need a different gimbal for this. And it can move around.
we're going to go ahead and take these off. Take the other one off. The cool thing about this starter is there's just 2 bolts in the back side right here. And the whole starter will come here. Killing. The dogs are killing us with their
poos.
Alright. So pretty much that's as easy as it gets. You remove these 2 bolts on the back side, and then you can pull the whole starter out. Wiggle it out, it'll come right off. We've left the power hooked up to it because the power is disconnected to the battery. Don't need to worry about it. So what we're going to do is the gear actually looks pretty good. It spins freely. Nothing too serious there. What we're going to do is we're going to hook the power right back up, and then we're going to test it again.
See if the starter even spins with it off the motor.
I'll show you why a power probe is really good for this here in just a second. Okay, that's covered up. We can hook the power back up to the solenoid. So technically, the power, once I think about it, will not go down to the starter like it does on vehicles. Because this is only kicked on when the starter button is hit. So you could do it, but it's always a good idea. Remove power anyway. If you accidentally touch something or hit something wrong, you can fry computers. So the cool thing about this power probe is this right here. This is a little ground clip. And in this particular instance, we need the ground clip. Because I want this system to be fully grounded, which we can test really quick. It's got full ground, which is what we want. We're going to move the cover back really quick just to make sure. We got good signal there. We got to hold the starter. I'm going to just hold the starter right here really fast. I'm just going to go ahead and test it.
Key.
Oh. Key on. Ready? I got nothing.
I think it's almost a bigger wire issue.
No, I think the starter just died on us. Good.
Good. Sending great power.
It's a good thing I have another starter here. I might be able to rebuild one of them to make a good one. So, that tells me that the starter is no good. This is a brand new starter that we just purchased, which is kind of disappointing. It's an actually named brand starter. So we're going to have an issue with that. I'm going to take the starter apart and then we're going to see what's going on with it. Other than that, Maxy also did tell us that the throttle blades in here like to get stuck. So he actually had these wires disconnected right here. One's actually for the throttle positioning sensor and one's for the auto. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to take the air box off. We're going to double check that, make sure the throttle blades are right where they should be, make sure they're functioning properly. And we're also going to test the TPS sensor. And we'll show you how to test it here after a while. Have fun. Stay tuned for the next video.
Strucker diesel.